Lily Mason could not stop her hands from shaking as she stepped onto the great crystal platform. At only 17, she was the youngest human ever to address the Galactic Council. The vast chamber stretched before her, filled with representatives from over 200 alien species. Some looked almost human, while others resembled nothing Earth had ever seen. 5 years had passed since humanity's first contact with alien life. Though humans were newcomers to interstellar politics and technologically behind most council races, they had earned respect for their adaptability and diplomatic skills. Lily, a prodigy from a small town in Nebraska, had studied alien cultures since first contact. Her natural talent for languages and remarkable intuition had earned her this position despite her youth. Captain Frank Dawson watched from the sidelines, his hand resting near his concealed weapon. As Lily's security detail and mentor, he had warned her about today's proposal. The chamber's lighting shifted to indicate it was her turn to speak. Esteemed members of the council, Lily began, her voice steadier than she felt. I come before you with a proposal regarding the situation on Eltar Prime. The council chamber hummed with translator devices as her words spread across the room. Eltar Prime was a border world suffering from a severe drought. Though technically under council protection, the planet had received little aid. Humanity proposes a joint relief mission led by Earth ships carrying water purification systems and agricultural support. Lily continued, we have adapted our technology to be compatible with Eltarian biology. A low hiss came from the Volturi section. The reptilian species had held council seats for thousands of years. Their representative, a towering figure with iridescent scales, rose to speak. The young human presumes much, the Volturi said, voice tripping with contempt. Earth has been among the stars for merely a moment, yet seeks to lead council initiatives. Lily maintained her composure. We do not claim superiority, honored Volturi. Earth simply has recent experience with similar climate challenges. Our proposal includes roles for all willing council members. The Volturi representative's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of irritation. Perhaps humans should focus on their own development before presuming to aid older civilizations. Frank tensed as he saw the slight stiffening in Lily's shoulders. She had practiced for this moment, knowing the Volturi would challenge her. With respect, Lily replied, her voice clear and unwavering. Suffering does not wait for political convenience. The people of Eltar Prime need help now. If the council has a better solution, I welcome hearing it. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Several representatives nodded in agreement. The Volturi delegate's scales darkened, a sign that Frank recognized as dangerous anger. The council president, a blue-skinned humanoid, raised a hand for silence. We will review Earth's proposal and vote tomorrow. This session is adjourned. As the chamber emptied, Frank moved quickly to Lily's side. That was bold, he said quietly. Lily's smile was tired but proud. Bold is all we have, Captain. We can't match their technology yet, but we can remind them of principles they've forgotten. Frank noticed the Volturi representative watching them from across the room, speaking in hushed tones with two aides. Let's get you back to your quarters. Tomorrow will be a long day. As they walked through the gleaming corridors of the council station, Lily reviewed her notes for tomorrow's vote. I think we have enough support, she said hopefully. The Enteri and Brill delegations seemed receptive. Frank nodded, but kept his concerns to himself. In his 20 years of military service, he had learned to sense danger. Something about the Volturi's reaction troubled him deeply. That night, as Lily prepared for bed in her quarters, she felt satisfied with her work. Her communication device chimed with messages of support from Earth and several council allies. She never heard the slight hiss of her room's air system changing, never noticed the colorless, odorless gas filling her lungs. By morning, when Frank came to escort her to the vote, Lily Mason was dead. The news of Lily Mason's death hit Earth like a storm. Millions watched as her body returned home, the small spacecraft landing under gray skies. Captain Frank Dawson stood rigid as the honor guard carried her casket, draped with both Earth's flag and the symbol of human space exploration. Environmental system malfunction, he said through clenched teeth to Admiral Victoria Hayes. That's what they're calling it. Victoria's face remained stone-like, but her eyes burned. At 57, she had seen enough of politics and war to know when she was being lied to. The Council is standing by that story. They conducted an investigation in less than 6 hours, Frank replied. The Valtteri led it. The funeral was brief, but attended by millions virtually. Lily's parents, simple teachers from Nebraska, stood bewildered by the presence of global leaders offering condolences. They had never wanted their daughter in space, but had supported her dreams. 3 days later, Admiral Hayes led a diplomatic delegation back to the Galactic Council station. Meanwhile, in a secure facility beneath Earth's lunar base, Commander Alan Foster activated screens around a large table. Protocol Nemesis is now in effect, he announced to the 12 men and women present. All communications are secured and isolated. Earth's top military and intelligence leaders nodded grimly. This protocol had been created soon after first contact, designed for the worst-case scenario, hostile alien action against humanity. Intelligence Officer Nathan Burke stepped forward. We have evidence the Valtteri assassinated Lily Mason, he said, displaying files on their screens. Their security forces accessed her quarters' environmental controls 2 hours before her death. The gas used leaves almost no trace after 18 hours. Why would they kill a 17-year-old diplomat? Asked General Patel. Because she was making them look bad, Alan replied. And because they thought we would do nothing. Back at the council station, Admiral Hayes stood before the full assembly. Her gray uniform was simple compared to the elaborate robes and biosuits of the alien representatives. The people of Earth request a full, independent investigation into Ambassador Mason's death, she stated firmly. The council president looked down from his elevated platform. We understand Earth's grief, but our investigation was thorough. It was an unfortunate accident. Victoria's face showed no emotion. We have evidence suggesting otherwise. The Valtteri representative made a sound like stones grinding together, their version of laughter. Earth always thinks itself special. Your technology cannot even detect the gases in our environmental systems. What evidence could you possibly have? For 3 hours, Victoria presented Earth's findings, witness statements, system access logs, even chemical analysis of Lily's tissue samples smuggled back to Earth. The council listened politely, then dismissed every point. Your analysis is flawed by your primitive technology, the council president concluded. We regret the loss of your young ambassador, but the matter is closed. Victoria looked around the chamber slowly, meeting the eyes or eye equivalents of each major representative. Some looked away. A few showed what might be guilt. I understand, she said finally. Then I have one final message from Earth's Joint Chiefs of Military Command. The chamber grew quiet. This was unusual protocol. You have killed one of our children, Victoria said, her voice carrying clearly across the silent room. We advise you to pray. With that, she turned and walked out, her delegation following in perfect formation. The council chamber erupted in confused discussion. The Valtteri representative made the grinding laugh again. The humans threaten us. They have 12 ships total. We have thousands. Only the Intari delegate, whose species had evolved as prey animals on their homeworld, felt a chill at Victoria's words. In the Admiral's eyes, the Intari had recognized something ancient and dangerous, a look their ancestors had seen in predators just before an attack. As Earth's ship departed, the Council returned to its normal business, the human threat already dismissed as emotional posturing. The matter of Lily Mason was officially closed. They did not notice that every human ship, merchant vessel, and civilian transport was quietly heading home. Earth went silent. 7 days after Admiral Hayes delivered her message, all official communication channels with the Galactic Council shut down. Trade vessels stopped arriving at alien ports. Human diplomats requested immediate transport home, citing family emergencies. The council races reacted with confusion, then amusement. The Valtteri ambassador spoke openly at a council dinner about how the monkeys have retreated to their trees. Many laughed. Some wondered if humans had realized they were outmatched in the galactic community. No one worried. Earth was just one planet with minimal space presence. But behind the communications blackout, Earth was far from silent. Colonel Rayan Mitchell floated in zero gravity, watching his team practice boarding maneuvers. 30 men and women in black armor moved through the training course with precise, silent efficiency. Again, he ordered. Faster this time. For 3 weeks, they had trained nonstop. Their target was a Valtteri command station, with security systems designed to detect any known species approach. The solution: become something the sensors weren't programmed to recognize. The composite suits are working, his lieutenant reported. Lab tests show they mask both heat signatures and DNA traces. Ryan nodded. How long until all teams are equipped? 3 more days. In another facility, Dr. Olivia Carter worked with barely controlled urgency. Her lab was filled with secured containers housing various alien tissue samples, all legally obtained through the Council's scientific exchange program. Project Thanatos Stage 3 trials complete, she told Commander Foster over a secure channel. The delivery mechanism works on all tested Valtteri samples. It will cause total paralysis for approximately 6 hours, with no permanent damage. Foster's face showed no emotion on the screen. And the selectivity? 100%. It affects only Valtteri biology. No effect on humans or any other Council species. Foster nodded. Begin production. We need enough to cover their entire home system. Across Earth's solar system, changes happened quietly but rapidly. Ships vanished from their registered locations. Military personnel disappeared from public view. The few alien visitors on Earth found themselves politely but firmly escorted to departure points. Captain Greg Weber stood on the bridge of the Retribution, a ship that officially didn't exist. The stealth carrier had been built in sections inside asteroid mines, assembled in deep space, and never entered on any registry. Position achieved, his navigation officer reported. We're holding at the designated coordinates, completely dark. Greg looked at the tactical display, showing the nearby Valtteri military installation. From this distance, they could deploy their full complement in under 20 minutes without being detected. Begin monitoring their communications, he ordered. I want to know every message that goes in or out of that base. Meanwhile, Earth appeared normal to outside observers. The few Council probes that approached detected regular broadcasts, normal flight patterns, and typical energy signatures. None realized they were seeing elaborately constructed projections. In the Lunar Command Center, Admiral Hayes reviewed the status of her scattered fleet. The small but advanced human ships had quietly positioned themselves at key points across Council space, maintaining strict communication silence. Are we ready? She asked Foster. Almost, he replied. The last human colonists are being evacuated from Council territories. Automated systems will maintain the appearance of normal operations. Victoria looked at the star map showing all their preparations. The Council thinks we retreated in fear, she said quietly. They never understood us. Foster nodded. Humans have always been underestimated. Throughout our history, those who appeared weak but prepared thoroughly often prevailed against stronger opponents. How much longer? 8 days until all pieces are in position, Foster replied. Then we can begin. Victoria looked at the holographic image of Lily Mason that floated in the center of the command table. The young woman's hopeful expression cut through her like a knife. She just wanted to help people, Victoria said softly. And so we will, Foster assured her. But first, we teach the Council what happens when they harm one of our own. On the Galactic Council station, the Valtteri representative drafted a proposal to revoke Earth's Council membership due to their irrational and isolationist behavior. The motion was scheduled for the next session. None of them knew they were already surrounded. Day 49 after Lily's death began like any other on the Galactic Council station. Representatives arrived for the morning session, aides rushed through corridors with data pads, and the massive crystal chamber filled with the usual political chatter. Then an urgent message came from the Volturi home system. All communications had gone dark. Not a single transmission had been received for over 6 hours. The council president called an emergency session. The Volturi representative demanded immediate action, assuming some technical failure or natural disaster had struck their homeworld. As the council debated sending an investigation team, the lights in the chamber suddenly dimmed. The representatives fell silent, looking around in confusion. This had never happened before. A soft blue glow appeared at the center of the chamber. It expanded slowly, forming a human shape. Within moments, a perfect hologram of Lily Mason stood before them. "Hello," the hologram said in Lily's voice. "My name is Lily Mason. I was killed 49 days ago in my quarters on this station." The council representatives stared in shock. The Volturi delegate rose to his feet. "This is an outrage. Some human trick." The hologram continued, ignoring the interruption. "I was not killed by an environmental malfunction. I was murdered." The hologram changed, showing security footage of 2 Volturi agents accessing the control panel outside Lily's quarters. More images appeared, floating around the chamber. Internal communications between Volturi High Command. Orders to eliminate the human ambassador. Detailed plans for the untraceable poison gas. Then came the most damning evidence, a recording of the council president speaking with the Volturi representative. "The human girl is becoming problematic," the council president said in the recording. "Her proposal for Eltar Prime is gaining support." "We will handle it," the Volturi replied. "A regrettable accident. Nothing to connect to us." "Just make sure of that," the president answered. "I don't want complications." The hologram of Lily returned. "My death was ordered to stop humanitarian aid to people who needed it. Is this what the Galactic Council stands for?" The chamber erupted in chaos. Species that had been allies for centuries turned on each other with accusations and denials. The Volturi representative hissed threats, while the council president desperately tried to restore order. No one noticed the side door opening. No one saw the human figure enter until she stood at the center of the chamber, passing through Lily's hologram. Admiral Victoria Hayes looked around the room, her uniform crisp and her expression calm. The council fell silent. "How did you get in here?" the council president demanded. "This chamber is sealed during emergency sessions." Victoria ignored the question. "While you've been watching this presentation, human special forces have taken control of key military installations across Volturi space." The Volturi representative's scales turned pale. "Impossible. Our defenses are impenetrable." "Check your communications," she suggested. "If they're working at all, you'll find your defense grid has been disabled, your shipyards are under our control, and your military command structure has been temporarily relieved of duty." The council representatives looked at each other in disbelief. Such a coordinated operation would require technology far beyond what humans had shown. "You're bluffing," the council president said, but his voice wavered. Victoria raised her hand slightly. On cue, the station's lights flickered, then stabilized. "We could have shut down this station just as easily," she said. "We could have eliminated the Volturi leadership entirely. But that's not our way." She walked slowly around the chamber, making eye contact with each representative. "For years, you've seen humans as primitive newcomers. You never bothered to learn our history. On Earth, we fought wars against ourselves for thousands of years before finding peace. We know more about conflict than all your species combined." The hologram of Lily watched silently as Victoria stopped in front of the council president. "You should have heeded our warning," Victoria said quietly. "You should have prayed." The Volturi representative slammed his scaled fist on the table. "This is an act of war. The council must respond with full military force." Admiral Hayes remained calm. I wouldn't advise that. Reports continued to flood into the council chamber. Human forces had somehow bypassed the most advanced security systems in the galaxy. The Volturi defense grid, built over centuries, had been shut down without firing a shot. Their shipyards were under human control. Yet, strangely, there were no reports of Volturi casualties. "How is this possible?" whispered the Antari delegate to his aide. "Humans have only been in space for 5 years." In a Volturi high command facility light years away, Lieutenant Samantha Reed led her team through silent corridors. The Volturi officers they encountered simply collapsed as they approached. "The gas is working perfectly," Samantha reported through her helmet comm. "All targets temporarily paralyzed. No permanent damage." Her team moved with practiced precision, securing control rooms and communication centers. On her wrist display, she could see the status of 20 other teams doing the same across Volturi space. Back in her laboratory on Earth, Dr. Olivia Carter monitored the deployment of Project Thanatos. The non-lethal virus affected only Volturi biology, causing temporary paralysis that would wear off after exactly 6 hours. Its delivery system was nearly invisible, microscopic drones that could penetrate any known shielding. Phase 2 complete, she reported to Commander Foster. All military targets neutralized. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Several representatives demanded emergency action, while others called for negotiation. The Council President struggled to maintain order. "We must activate the combined defense fleet," he insisted. "This human aggression cannot stand." As if in response, the main view screen in the chamber activated, showing Captain Greg Weber on the bridge of the Retribution. "I wouldn't recommend that," he said calmly. "Your fleet command systems have been compromised." "Impossible," shouted a military advisor. "Our systems are isolated and protected by quantum encryption." Greg smiled slightly. "We've had access to your networks for years. You just never noticed because you didn't think to look for us." Admiral Hayes stepped forward again. "While you've been talking, our stealth fleet has decloaked surrounding this station and the Council homeworld. We could have destroyed your civilization. Instead, we chose to disable your military without a single death." The Council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. "What do you want?" the Council President finally asked, his voice hollow. "We want justice," Hayes replied. "Not revenge. There's a difference." She gestured, and the hologram of Lily changed to display a star map. Red points of light showed human-controlled positions throughout Council space, far more than anyone had believed possible. "For years, you've seen humanity as technologically inferior," Hayes continued. "We allowed that perception. On Earth, we learned long ago that appearing weak while being strong provides tactical advantage." The Council representatives looked at each other in growing understanding. The humans had been planning this since first contact, building hidden capabilities, mapping Council systems, preparing for a contingency they hoped would never come. "Here are our terms," Hayes said, her voice echoing in the silent chamber. "The Volturi High Command and Council President will face trial for Lily's murder. The truth will be made public to all Council races, and the Council will be reformed with new transparency measures. And if we refuse?" the Volturi representative asked, though his usual confidence had vanished. Hayes looked at him steadily. "We've shown what we can do without firing a shot. Don't make us demonstrate what would happen if we chose violence." The Council President slumped in his chair. "How can we trust you won't use this power to dominate the Council?" Hayes glanced at the hologram of Lily. "Because that's not who we are. We could have chosen vengeance. We chose justice instead." She paused. "That's the difference between us. That's what Lily would have wanted." 1 week later, the largest galactic tribunal in Council history convened. Representatives from all 200 member species attended. The Great Hall on the neutral planet Arbiter had not been used in over 500 years. Major Nicole Warren led the human prosecution team. At 35, She had been Earth's top. 6 months after the tribunal, representatives from all Council species gathered for the opening of the reformed Galactic Council. The new chamber was located on a neutral station orbiting Earth. Its central hall was named Lily's Hope. Admiral Hayes stood beside Captain Frank Dawson as delegates filed into the gleaming space. The design combined elements from all member worlds, with Earth's contribution being the transparent dome that revealed the stars above. She would have loved this view, Frank said quietly, looking up at the Earth hanging in space before them. Victoria nodded. Every time they meet, they'll be reminded of where she came from. The new council structure had been completely reformed. No single species could hold power for more than one cycle. All military commands required multiple species authorization. Most importantly, all communications and decisions were now transparent to the public across all worlds. As the session began, Admiral Hayes addressed the assembly. For the first time, she revealed the full extent of humanity's capabilities, not to threaten, but to explain. When we first contacted the Council, we were indeed newcomers to interstellar travel, she explained. But humans have fought wars against ourselves for thousands of years. We know conflict in ways peaceful species cannot imagine. She displayed images of Earth's hidden fleet, stealth technology, and specialized forces. We could have used these capabilities destructively. Instead, we chose another path. Many representatives shifted uncomfortably at the realization of how vulnerable they had been. Going forward, Earth will share its defensive technologies with all Council members, Hayes continued. We believe in balance. No species should fear another. On Eltar Prime, the former Council president worked under the hot sun, helping install water purification systems. His hands were blistered, his back sore. Yet for the first time in decades, he felt he was doing something meaningful. A local child approached him with a water cup. "You're working hard today," the child said simply. The former president looked at the clean water in the cup, water that would have been unavailable months earlier. "I'm trying to understand," he admitted. "Understand what?" the child asked. "Why someone would care about people they never met." The child shrugged. "My grandmother says helping others is what makes us people, not just things that live." The simple wisdom stayed with him as he returned to work. Back on the station, Captain Dawson established a new training academy for multi-species security teams. "The best protection comes from cooperation," he told the first class of cadets from 20 different worlds. "No single species has all the answers." Dr. Carter's work on Project Thanatos had been adapted into medical breakthroughs that saved millions across the galaxy. What had been designed as a non-lethal weapon became treatments for previously incurable diseases. 1 year after Lily's death, representatives from every Council world gathered for a memorial service. The hologram of Lily stood at the center of Lily's Hope Chamber, her young face solemn yet kind. Admiral Hayes stood to speak. "1 year ago, we warned the Council to pray. Some thought it was a threat. It was actually a reminder." She looked around the chamber. Throughout human history, prayer has meant many things: a plea for help, an expression of gratitude, a moment of reflection. "We asked you to pray not out of fear, but to consider what kind of galaxy you wanted to build." The former Volturi High Commander, attending under guard from Eltar Prime, stepped forward unexpectedly. "I have learned what prayer means," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "It means acknowledging something greater than yourself." He looked at Lily's hologram. Her vision was greater than our fear. As the ceremony ended, the new Galactic Charter was signed. Its preamble read, "Let no child of any world fear to speak truth to power." Later, the Entari delegate approached Hayes privately. "If the Council had refused your justice," he asked, "what would humans have done?" Hayes smiled sadly. "We're not monsters. We just needed you to understand that neither are we prey." She looked toward Earth, shining blue in the darkness. Lily understood that strength without compassion isn't strength at all. The Entari nodded slowly. "That is why we pray," he said. "Not from fear, but from hope.